Hey guys, it's Boogalore here, and I know it's kind of early talking about what's your game of the year for 2022, and I'm already lining up with games that I would say that really had a big impact on me as far as gaming is concerned for the year 2022. Now, a lot of you guys know you'll come to my channel, especially more recently, to just hear my thoughts and opinions on, JRPGs. And I just love the fact is that Xenoblade 2 was the game that really got me back into just loving the genre all over again. I found my love all over again for JRPG since I've been away from it for so long because of how busy my life has become. Being a full-time single dad, entrepreneur, YouTuber, the whole thing, and I just haven't had time. So I spent most of my time with the fighting game genre. And after spending time with fighting games been kicking my ass, and it just pretty much pushed me back to that direction to enjoy JRPGs, and I really thank Xenoblade Chronicles 2 for that. So in this video, I want to talk about a game right now that I'm highly considering to be my game of the year of 2022, but that could entirely change because we still have more JRPGs that's being released this year that I have yet to try and that I'm also anticipating. But today I want to talk about a LiveALive remake for the Nintendo Switch. Now, I've made a review on this game weeks ago, so if you guys are interested and want to hear my thoughts as far as the review is concerned and whether or not you should go pick it up, you can definitely go check that out. But I personally wanted to talk about this game is because this game is a perfect example of how you don't need to have a high profile, third party or first party AAA, title in order to highlight as that big blockbuster game of the year nominee. This game, LiveALive, is one of these, I would say, AA titles made by Square Enix that pretty much pull that nostalgia out of me. This game has a lot of that 90s classic golden era JRPG feel to it, but most importantly to me, what surprised me is the story itself. And for this game to be something that came from the 90s, this game was way before its time as far as the themes and the story of these characters in this game. And I see why that this game never really made it over here to the West in the early 90s, because this game was just so before its time that I would feel as though that no one would appreciate it. More specifically for the fact is that gaming was much different back then in the West compared to what it is now, and JRPGs wasn't as popular and mainstream as it is now. And it's perfect to see that Square Enix has decided to create a studio that focuses on maintaining that nostalgia and maintaining that feel of that golden era, and they have done a really good job with this. And the fact is that the stories that stick out to me the most is one, Imperial China. I think Imperial China will be the #1 story that really hit me the most, because it was something that I didn't really expect for them to pretty much execute, I would say. For the fact is that, and this video spoilers is very spoiler heavy, so just if you don't want to hear anything, then I advise you to click off of this. But with Imperial China, the way it describes the story is that you're just a kung fu master who's just looking for a spiritual successor because he's old and his time is almost up. He's dying soon. So he wanted to pass his teachings so he can survive for the test of time, for generation to generation. So I was like, okay, it's like a typical kung fu martial arts type of storyline, but I didn't expect that a game that's pixels, can pull this type of emotion out of me by the time I reach the end of that story. Because essentially, you meet these different apprentice or soon to be apprentice of the martial artist master, and you begin to see each of their personalities. They all had their strengths, their weaknesses, and all of them were flawed individual characters that you have grown just for that short bit of time to actually get a chance to actually feel and connect with, what they're going through. And it was a point in the game to where in this story where you had to choose what characters you want to, what apprentice you really want to spend time on focusing and harnessing its skills. Now the game does warn you that whatever character you spend time with, you only have a couple of days to do this, and that's the time, and that will be the character that the sensei was somewhat favored the most or whatever. And I really didn't take that under considerations because I may have would have chose differently, I'm not sure, but I really felt sorry for one of the characters, one of the apprentice, who was pretty much the underdog. He wasn't a fighter, but he had heart, he had spirit, and that's something that the sensei had pretty much admired. So when you had to choose which character that you wanted to pretty much train, I chose the underdog, not because that was the character that stood out to me the most, but it was the fact is that he was level 1 compared to all the other two apprentices. So I leveled him up, spent time with him so he can at least reach and just be on that same level as everyone else. But I didn't know that me doing that was also considering me spinning him as my favorite, which I began, like I said before, began to grow to like this apprentice because he was the underdog. But I didn't know the impact of the story until much later, is when you come back to your dojo and you found 2 of your apprentices dead, but the underdog. And I was like, what? They killed them? Like, it really got to me because I really began to get attached to both of all 3 characters, and 2 of them died, but the other one didn't. And it reminded me of something from Ip Man's, because the Kung Fu Master wanted to get his revenge, so he went to the guys or the gang that had something to do with his apprentice's death, and he went there, and the apprentice showed up and said, no, I'm going to help you out, master. You know, these were my friends too. And by the time you reach the end, the underdog was no longer the underdog. He became the master because he learned the technique of what the Kung Fu Master had taught. And when you defeat the final boss in that chapter, and now you can pass on my teachings, and now I know I can die in peace knowing that my teachings will live on. He died at the end of the chapter. And that really got to me. It really did, because by the time you make it to the end of the game, and I was talking to other, you know, players who played the game, and I didn't know that the results can vary depending on how much time you spent with whatever apprentice. And I didn't know that I thought that was like the default story, that that's how the story is supposed to go. But no, in other people's playthrough, the underdog had died, and the other protagonist died while they kept the other apprentice alive. So it depends on how much time you spent with their apprentice. And that's why I said it was before its time, because you had choices that really mattered. Even the Western Tale, the Sundown Kid, I didn't know that by the time you reach the end of the game, Mad Dog, you can run from that battle, or by the time you get into that the final encounter with your rival who was trying to hunt you down at the very beginning of the game, and you end up teaming up to fight the I guess you say the criminals, you can choose to walk away from that fight and you can keep him alive. I didn't know that. I just fought him and killed him and called it a day. And I think I didn't want to kill him because we end up formulating a bond with each other to save the town. But after talking with Master Boris and a couple other players, said, yeah, you can just walk away and he can live. And I didn't know that would change. I didn't know that. So there's a lot of different little subtle things and impacts as you as a player have on this game, which makes this game way before its time, which I really appreciate it. And then of course you have the Distant Future, which is another one of my favorites. And this one really didn't have combat in it. It was all storytelling, and it really paid homage to movies like Aliens and Event Horizon, where you've been created by your master and you're this little robot named Cube, and as you're on the ship, there's a lot of crazy wonkiness that's going on in the ship that just isn't right. And as you play through it, your friends or your crew members are dying and you don't know who's doing the killing. And it's just very fascinating. And then you meet this general who is pretty much racist against robots because he'd been to war and watched many of his friends die in combat and watched them ripped apart by robots. So he has kind of a hatred for them. But by the time you reach the end of the story, after you save his life and y'all fight alongside one another, y'all begin to formulate a respect for each other, and you start to see robots in a different light. And I really appreciate what they done with this story, and what helps it even more is the voice acting. The voice acting really plays a prominent role, and I think that's another reason why how well directed it was that really made it even more impactful. Imperial China and distant in the distant future, man. The distant future had me really scared, because there was an instance where a monster that was passed through cargo had broken free, and it became like a Mr. X and Nemesis situation, to where as you trying to solve the murders, that monster is set free and set loose, and you have to run from it. And he pops up randomly, so you don't know when he's going to show up, and if he comes in contact with you, it's automatic game over, which I thought was pretty cool, man. I just loved it. And then, of course, the final story that you unlock is the hero, who is the hero on the top of the cover right here. He's supposed to be the silent hero. He's supposed to represent you. And this is another tragic tale that end up just throwing me for a loop, because I didn't expect this story to go there. And it's essentially that once the princess get kidnapped, you have to go on this, you know, traditional story to save the princess, but it turns into something much bigger and much grander that involves, you know, your rival or your best friend, who pretty much set the whole thing up, because he was in love with the princess and he was jealous of you for the fact is that no matter how hard he tries to one up you, you always one up him. But what really broke it for him is that he finally found the woman that he loved, and you took that from him. So he staged the whole event, gave himself to the Dark Lord, and essentially lures you in. And not only that he lured you in, he also tricked you into killing the king. You didn't know it was the king, you thought it was the Shadow Lord. You killed the king, so now the entire kingdom is after you. You get there, you kill your rival / best friend, and then you come to find out that the princess was actually in love with your best friend and not in love with you. And then she blames you for his death, and then she kills herself. I was like, yo, what the hell is this? So the hero of the story said, you know what? The world hates me, and the world wants me to be this monster, so guess what? I'm going to give you what you want. I will be that monster that y'all want me to be. And he's actually the final boss of this entire damn game, because he brings together all the timelines, and all the timelines are in danger, and it's up to you and all the other protagonists to get together to be able to take him down. Now, you have multiple different endings. In order to get the true ending, you have to recruit all the heroes, all the main protagonists of the timelines within this mixed up timeline at the end. Recruit all of them, and then approach him at the end and fight the final boss. And you get this epic cutscene where all the heroes will show up on the battlefield, and the goal is we have to free him from this demon. We free him, and he pretty much gets a redemption at the end, and he dies, and then everybody's sent back to their original timeline. And I would say that, man, like, this game had really had brought me in. And I know a lot of you guys are wondering, what about Xenoblade Chronicles 3? You know, like, it would make sense that, you know, would be your game of the year, since you've been hyping it up and talking about it so much. And if you guys really want to hear my thoughts on that, I have made a video recently, which is still climbing. It's one of my highest viewed Xenoblade videos I've ever made, and I've pretty much been pushed up to 12.3k subscribers because of this video and my opinions of what I thought about the story of Xenoblade Chronicles 3. So you have yet to check that out. Definitely check it out, because this really helped my channel grow even more, and a lot of you guys would love to hear more of my thoughts on JRPGs because of it. But I would say that I enjoyed this story more than Xenoblade Chronicles 3. And I walked in this with no high expectations or low expectations. I just walked in saying, let's just see what this game's about. And this game really surprised me of what it delivered in terms of the voice acting, the gameplay mechanics, the story. It was just a whole complete total package that I enjoyed about this game. So you have yet to try this. There's a demo that you can try out, which I appreciate what Square Enix is doing. Square Enix is now putting out a lot of demos for their upcoming JRPGs, no matter what platform that you're on, so you can give it a try and also give your feedback about it so they can make some tweaks to it and everything. And I really appreciate this approach, because RPGs, and more specifically JRPGs, is similar to fighting games. You can't just like pay money and to dive into it, and then you find out that you don't like it, then you just wasted your money. You wasted your time and your investment. And I find the demos really, really good, because then you can determine whether or not this is something that you will enjoy and time that you want to invest in, because JRPGs is just something that takes a lot of time. You really have to invest your time and actually play them. That's why it takes me days and weeks to actually just finish a 30 to 40 hour game. And sometimes even take me a whole entire month, because it requires your time, and time is something I really don't have. So I spend that little bit of time to actually enjoy these titles. But that's pretty much it for this video. This is looking like it's going to be my game of the year for 2022. We still have yet to experience Valkyrie Elysium, Field Chronicles, and Star Ocean: The Divine Force, which is also coming out this year. So I'm definitely looking forward to playing those games to actually come to my final decision what would be my game of the year. But I don't know, man. LiveALive is looking to be it. So that pretty much wraps this video up. If you like the video, hit the like button, hit that subscribe button, and also hit that bell to be notified for more JRPG news, discussion, releases, everything up and above, you know? So this is Mugen Lord signing off. I'll see you Game Fiends later. Peace out.